Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of legendary country music artist Toby Keith. Some of you may have heard that Toby Keith had died recently. He was due, believed, to stomach cancer. It was in his sleep, though, at least according to Wikipedia.org, I believe. But I'm sure it was attributed to stomach. He was battling with stomach cancer. And first thing off, I wanted to offer our condolences and prayers to the close friends and family members of Toby Keith. If any of these people do happen to see the video, and I'm going to talk about some natal placements and transits that may have been tied in with this, and not just about his death, but his life, of course, because this guy was, again, renowned legendary country music artist, and I want to, basically pay homage and tribute to him, like a eulogy to Toby Keith. The first thing off is, okay, I couldn't find a chart for him on astro.com. Astrotheme.com does have a chart for him, which gives, the sun, Cancer, moon in Gemini, and Scorpio rising. So I'm going with that one. And the thing is, he is a fellow. I have my sun is in Cancer too, and Moon in Gemini. That could be, very mercurial, combination. But I think the fact that he has a fixed ascendant, could modify that strongly. It's like my chart to some degree because again, my sun is in Cancer, my moon is in Gemini, and my rising is Taurus. So I think in my case, my Taurus ascendant grounds the more changeable, fickle Cancer, Gemini, Sun, Moon combination in my chart. Now the thing about him is that he was saying, when I look at his chart, I think of that there was something with that song, How Do You Like Me Now? And he says, I'm living in your radio or something like that. Uh, Interesting, having it Sun in Cancer, which is about the home, and then you have the Moon in Gemini, it's communication. The Sun is about our life, and then that the life for the zodiac sign Cancer, the Sun in Cancer is often tied into one's home, and then but just living. The Sun is about life, and then the Moon in Gemini is connected with communication. He says, I'm living in your radio. It just I think a lot of that is astrology, having a sense of humor. And the thing is, the Sun, having the Moon in Gemini in his chart, obviously emotional needs, very tied into his communication and disseminating information. And then it makes a tight conjunction to Venus, so he obviously made money from this. I don't know if he was a songwriter as well. I have not looked at his biography extensively, but it wouldn't surprise me with that, because you have the Moon in Gemini, the emotional need to communicate and write, and which can include writing, and then he has Venus making the conjunction to it, and Venus is about money and things we enjoy and what we love, and music as well. So in the seventh house, I don't know if he ever partnered up with anybody, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did, a number of collabs with other people. And then you have the Scorpio ascendant flavor in this, done a lot of this being done, with a lot of passion, desire, and emotional intensity. And the thing about his chart as well, some things that were, he's also he another astrological placement I have with Toby Keith, interestingly enough, is the Mercury in Cancer, which can give an ability to extemporize in speech and speak off the cuff, which I'm sure he had a very good ability to do, and something he was likely very proficient in. Now, the thing about Toby Keith as well, some natal placements, transits, that might have been tied into his passing, is that, okay, the one thing that I notice is that in his chart he does have Mars in Virgo conjunct Pluto, and Mars, it could be, Mars is about pain and injury. Pluto is connected with trauma. He has a close conjunction with Mars and Pluto. in Virgo, and Virgo, can be tied into abdominal issues. He did have stomach cancer. And another thing that he has too is that, Jupiter is conjunct his Saturn in his natal chart as well. And Jupiter can have a connection, with Cancer, and Saturn, can be chronic issues. So this could have been more debilitating for Toby Keith, sadly. Toby Keith also had transit Pluto, making a loose conjunction to his natal Jupiter. Now, I know it's not, a conjunction by transit based on, the standard that at least most astrologers use for orbs for transits, but I don't know if we could say definitively that a planet doesn't feel a vibration from another planet, even if it's, say, like 4 degrees away from it. So, Pluto, again, as many of you know, is about death, and Jupiter can have a connection, with the, Cancer. So sadly, that could be a transit that may have been tied in with this. Also, Toby Keith, at the time of his passing, had a transit Saturn conjoin his, Chiron. Now, it was a separating aspect, so maybe that's an indicator that the way this manifested for him was that it was, something of a chronic issue. The suffering was actually on its way out. It was passing, and it falls in his fourth house of end of life. Pisces, can be, and it's in Pisces, and Pisces can be connected with, the diseases, that are, may not be eradicated, or ones that cause more lethargy and weakness. I don't know if Toby Keith had any, problems as far as the immunity, immune system being diminished, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's what was going on with the fact that this was in Pisces. Toby Keith also has Pluto making a very tight opposition to his Chiron in Pisces, so it's an indicator that any suffering going on connected with this Chiron placement may have had more difficulty in gaining some power and control over it, and it might have given him actually more trauma in this instance. It's also Chiron is also opposing his natal Mars, so it might have been where the issues may have caused more physical related pain for Toby Keith. Another thing, when I look at Toby Keith's chart as well, he also has the Mars making an inconjunct to his Jupiter. So it shows you, inconjunction astrology can often be about adjustments. And the thing about it is, looking at Jupiter again, which, could have a connection, with Cancer, making the inconjunct to Mars, is that this sadly might have taken a toll on his, his drive, his motivation, and just his actions in general. I mean, Mars in Virgo, is really, I look at that as like a workaholic position. A lot of energy, doing things that are work related, and wanting to, stay busy, being of service, being helpful to others, and sadly, this is a an aspect where naturally I'm sure he had to make some kind of adjustment as far as that goes. And the thing about Toby Keith's chart as well, when I look at it, okay, even though he has the Sun in introverted Cancer, secretive Scorpio rising that may enjoy solitude and seclusion, he has most of his planets on the top half of the chart, which would suggest more extroversion as opposed to introversion. A person that likely is able to cope with the limelight, a person that may desire more of a public life as opposed to a private one, but having a Scorpio ascendant, I'm sure he was somebody that really did not divulge a lot about himself. And having the moon in Gemini, as many of you may know out there, moon in Gemini can be very vocal in matters pertaining to worldly matters, but less less talkative about things that are more pertaining to their personal life. And only just looking at his chart, sadly, I mean, at the time, of his passing as well, he did have, the Chiron and a transit Chiron and Aries, also, at this time making a loose and conjunct to his ascendant, and that could, indicate physical, suffering. Chiron, in Aries, Aries is connected, the head, the face, the skull. I don't know if he had, any kind of, headache issues, any persistent headaches that he may have had to deal with, at the time of his passing. And the thing about this is, Toby Keith is just, somebody, that was just, really, just again, legendary country music artist. And it's terrible, when you hear about these things, somebody passing at such a relatively, young age. I mean, I think he was like 62, when he passed away. And just remember, essence of life, people, that life, I mean, people can come, they can go anytime. It's about, when you hear about these things, it's a reminder that, if you're gonna anything, try to appreciate, whoever's in your life at the time. I felt in my life I've been, undervalued and underappreciated by many people. Sometimes people have taken me for granted, but you don't often miss somebody until they've dissipated out of your life, and then that's when you really truly value them. And I'm sure that has been the case, with Toby Keith, to some people in their life. And I mean, I do, like with me, I do appreciate a lot of his music, and that he brought to others. The How Do You Like Me Now is definitely, iconic song. And Toby Keith will be missed, but surely not forgotten. I'm sure he's left a great, legacy, and has inspired others to, other people to become country music artists. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.